In mid-January, Portugal was still one of the world's corona hotspots. Just 3 months later, the COVID emergency in Portugal looks completely different. Portugal's president, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, was optimistic on Wednesday that Parliament would extend the corona alarm status that has been in effect since November 2020 for the last time by 2 weeks in the coming week. According to Rebelo de Sousa, May should then be the moment for further easing of the lockdown measures. Thanks to an ultra-hard lockdown, the 9 million inhabitant country in the far southwest of Europe seems to be turning around. Even the greatest optimists would not have dreamed of such positive prospects 3 months ago. In mid-January, Portugal was still one of the world's corona hotspots, with a 7-day incidence of nearly 900 cases per 100,000 people. The country had the highest rate of infection in the world. The intensive care units were 94% full. The pictures of dozens of ambulances with COVID patients who had to wait for hours in front of the emergency room of the Lisbon hospital Santa Maria until beds were free went around the world. The morgues were overcrowded. With over 13,000 new infections and 300 COVID victims every day, Portugal's health system was on the verge of collapse. The corona situation was so dramatic that the Portuguese government asked its European neighbors for help in mid-January. While Germany sent doctors and paramedics from the Bundeswehr to Lisbon, Austria and Spain agreed to take over seriously ill COVID patients. Just 3 months later, the COVID emergency in Portugal looks completely different. With a 7-day incidence value of less than 30 cases per 100,000 inhabitants, Portugal is the best of all European countries after Iceland. How did the small holiday country on the Atlantic, comparable to Austria in terms of area and population, succeed in the turnaround of the corona crisis so quickly? The answer is simple. With a tough and above all nationwide lockdown, almost everything was sealed, a 24-hour curfew for all citizens who were only allowed to leave the apartment for compelling reasons such as shopping for food or working. The government legally obliged all companies to offer home offices as far as possible. Schools, universities, restaurants and shops, except supermarkets, had to close. Walks and sports in the fresh air were only allowed for a short time and in the vicinity of their own home. In general, the Portuguese were not allowed to leave their own district on weekends between Friday evening and Monday morning, apart from very few regional differences. Contacts were limited to one's own household. The police strictly monitored compliance with the lockdown rules. In order to stop the rapidly increasing pandemic, the country closed itself off completely from the outside for 2 weeks. Entry and exit without a valid reason were banned. Even the land border with Spain is only slowly reopening. The government's bill paid off, even if the stricter lockdown rules in Europe were very painful for the population. Now Portugal's socialist Prime Minister Antonio Costa wants to slowly bring his country back to normality. Street cafes and restaurant terraces are again allowed to open until 10:30 p.m. during the week, but only until 1 p.m. on weekends. A maximum of 4 people are allowed per table. Small shops up to 200 square meters and museums are reopening. Children up to the age of 15 should be given face-to-face lessons again. The need to work from home remains. In mid-April, cinemas and theaters should be able to receive visitors again. Finally, the last easing step for the time being is planned for the beginning of May, namely the opening of the interior of the restaurants and cafes for up to 6 people. The opening must be done very carefully, said Portugal's Prime Minister Costa, warning his compatriots. We cannot take any chances and we must not jeopardize what we have achieved. But only a few Portuguese listened to his appeal at Easter. The terraces of the street cafes and restaurants in Lisbon and Porto were full. The coming weeks will show whether the Portuguese corona miracle might not last forever. Above all, the holiday coast of the Algarve and the holiday island of Madeira are worrying, where the contagion curves are already going up again. So I keep my fingers crossed. I hope that the people in Portugal stay sensitive and act responsibly, so the government will not have to go back. And I really keep my fingers crossed. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.